came back and went to work. While other teams were still playing. I mean, that's, I've always been one that, really wants to play. And, we set the schedule this way. And when you think about it, it's good and bad. I mean, because again, I don't like a lot of time off. I just don't. And this was a nice break. But again, we were banged up a little bit too. So it's given guys like Trace an opportunity to kind of recoup and hopefully get ready to go starting Thursday.
Mike Schumann.
Yeah, Coach, I've heard you say over the last month on several occasions that you want this team to play with more toughness. I'm curious as to what you've had to change maybe with your practice approach or otherwise to kind of help bring that out of this team.
Well, again, I'm always looking to motivate and push guys to play harder. And sometimes that's got to come within too, because, I can't play for them. But, practices, they vary, sometimes, they awfully tough where guys are not real happy with me. And then there are times where practice, you just kind of breeze through it and you get through it and you get ready for the next practice. But, I'm just looking at the 3 games that we lost. And we got out toughed in those 3 games. And that worries me, going against really good teams. And now, on the flip side of that, the Xavier game and the Carolina game, we out toughed them. I mean, that was the difference in the game. And so out of the 5 games, we behind one, I think. So we just gotta make sure when we show up on the floor to play, not only do we get off to a good start, but we maintain it throughout the game. And in those 3 games, we just never gave ourselves a chance.
Seth.
The long break you had, that's longer than you'd ever really get during an NBA season. I'm just wondering how you kind of personally handled it as a coach. Like, did it give you a chance to do some self-scouting you don't normally get the chance to do during a season?
Well, I went out and yes, I did. I did a number of things. I went and honored my high school coach. I went, and looked at a couple of high school games. And I spent all my time in Bloomington. I left for one day, and that was New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. I went back and checked on my home in Atlanta that day, and then came back New Year's morning and had practice and spent dinner with our team. So for me, it's just, I'm strictly basketball. That's what I do. And so I was here watching film on the computer and, trying to get ready for Iowa and seeing how we can beat Iowa.
Tyler.
Hey, Coach. Hope you're doing well. With what X is going through right now in his rehab, I know you went through something similar your senior year at IU. I guess, how has that experience that you had kind of been able to help you just guide him through and help him through what he's going through right now?
Well, again, I mean, we had different injuries. I don't know really I don't think anyone knows what the turnaround is for X right now. Only he will know that strictly how his body and his foot accepts, the therapy that he's putting in, the rehab to get back on the floor. My situation was a little different because when you got doctors telling you got a 50-50 chance of ever coming back and playing, that's a little different. So I was kind of backed in a corner and had no choice but to push to come back. And I know he's feeling the same way. It's his last year, his last go around in college basketball, and he's feeling probably the pressure of getting back out on the floor, and I get it. People thought I was crazy and coming back in 8 weeks, but I knew my body at that particular time, and most athletes do know their body. So I'm sure X will be smart about his approach and coming back. But I wouldn't count him out, put it that way, because he's a tough competitor, and already he's doing some things probably maybe a little ahead of schedule. But I'm just hoping for the best to get him back and try to keep him mentally positive about his approach.
Nathan.
Hey, Coach. I'm sure you and the staff have broken down every matchup ahead of this Iowa game, but how does it affect your preparation when an opponent is on a 3-game losing streak like Iowa is? Is there anything you emphasize more when your opponent is going through that?
Listen, I've experienced it all in the NBA in terms of teams that struggle, and those are the most dangerous teams. Because their backs is somewhat against the wall, and the fact that they're coming home, they play extremely well at home, and we had our problems with them last year. I mean, we were up 7 at halftime, and in the second half we just threw the ball all over the gym, and then we just gave a 7, 8, 9 point lead, with 5, 6 minutes on the clock down in Indianapolis there, to go to the Big Ten championship round. And that wasn't good because, again, that's a game that I got to close. And so those things still stick with me. I harp on last season because that's the only thing I could really talk about based on my first go around. And, you lose 2 buzzer beaters, the Iowa and Rutgers game, and you lose a big game in Wisconsin when you're up 20. It's, there's about 5 or 6 games I could rattle off where we just didn't finish. And I'm trying to get them past that stage. But the way to do that is we got to play hard. You got to show up and compete. You can't have games like Kansas and Arizona and Rutgers. You got to at least fight and put yourself in position to win a game.
Todd Golden.
Mike, during the break, I was speaking with another Division I coach, and he told me that he has more players in counseling than he's ever had in his career. He's had a long career, and most of it is due to social media reaction that they get, post game and all that. You and I are both probably of a generation where we didn't grow up with it. We know how to dismiss it, but players today did grow up with it, and they struggle to do that. What's your approach to what players deal with when it comes to social media? And, what advice do you try to impart to players who might struggle with the same thing?
Well, I wish it was that easy just to tell them to leave it alone, but it's not. It's in their DNA. This is what they do. And it's tough, man, because it's ruined a lot. It's hurting a lot of athletes, I think. But they can't get away from it. So yeah, you do have counseling set up for a lot of players, and we deal with it with our team as well. I won't hide that fact, but I don't know how you get around it though, because again, unless a player just stays away from social media and focus on his craft, they'll never get away from it, So you hear good things, one day, and the next day it's all tumbling down on you. And a lot of these cats, they can't mentally take it, and handle it. And it's sad, but social media is not going anywhere. And, I just got it from a coaching standpoint, man. I just got to, when I catch a guy that's down or he's going through some situations, man, I just hope that he comes and talks to me where we can possibly get him help. And they're not out on the limb by themselves.
Zach.
Mike, I guess I just did want to ask you about Trace. You brought him up a little bit earlier, but it seems like he's kind of been just sort of resting through something when he can. With the break here, do you see a difference in where he's at health-wise, kind of getting ready to gear back up for Big Ten play?
Yesterday, was really the first time he's had some contact. And I thought he looked pretty good. But I won't know the extent of it until I get down there in the training room today and just see how he feels physically. But, he's been doing some things on the floor, but not a lot of contact. And yesterday, we had a lot of contact yesterday, and today we'll have a lot of contact. We'll scrimmage today and just kind of see where he is, providing that, he's feeling good about yesterday's practice.
Last question, Tom Brew.
Mike, I suppose one of the good things about social media is that on Christmas morning, several million people watched Anthony Leal was surprised his sister by paying off her student loans with his NIL money. I was wondering your thoughts on that and how much you enjoyed that yourself.
Well, I think it's a beautiful thing because, again, a lot of these kids, man, I mean, NIL is helping out tremendously with a lot of these families. And for him to step up and do that, I don't know how much money he's made in NIL, but the fact that he's made some money and he's able to put it towards, his sister's schooling and her education is tremendous, man. And he'll be blessed for it one day. He might not see it now, but it'll come back to him. You do good things like that, good things happen your way. So I'm proud of him, as a young man, because he didn't have to do that. But again, she's blessed from it, and the family is too as well, because that's a big thing to step up and do something like that.
All right, Coach. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, take care.